Primetime Seniors is brought to you by Home Helpers of the Lowcountry, providing safe and independent in-home care. And filmed on location at Riverside at Belfair. More than a retirement community, it's a lifestyle. Welcome to Primetime Seniors, living for today, making choices for tomorrow. I'm Debbie Court, coming to you from Riverside at Belfair. And along with me is Debbie Morris, owner of Home Helpers of the Lowcountry, as well as Laura Williams, the executive director here at Riverside at Belfair. We are back.
We are.
And we are talking independence. We started earlier this month, with a great show talking about independent living, and we're going to carry that on in the remaining couple weeks here in August.
Yeah, we talked earlier about different resources in the community and knowing your resources.
There are a lot.
Absolutely. It really is very impressive when you consider that we're not really rural, but we're certainly not a major metropolitan area. We have a lot of wonderful people doing a lot of wonderful things in the community that help everybody. Absolutely. And then today, or this next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking to two more great resources, so it'll be fine. A
lot of good stuff. You know what I love too is that I find that there is such a passion behind what people are doing. I mean, you come across people in careers every day, but I don't know, there's something about senior wellness, senior care, senior issues. There's a little bit of extra compassion and passion in what they do.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm a firm believer it's either in you or it's not. I think that if you've had a personal connection, somebody needing help, something like that, that I think senior care is just one of those things that is very, passionate. We're all aging, and so
right, we're all going to have the experience.
Absolutely, I want great care, and I want to make sure those resources are there whenever my family and I get there.
And that was neat. In our earlier episode, earlier this month, you had talked about your grandmother really being the impetus to getting you into this genre. So,
yeah, and it's something that we shared because my business partner and I both were caregivers of elderly family members, and that's how we started. Yeah. So it comes from a core, and that's what makes it valuable to you.
That's really neat. And again, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the, again, more of a personal experience as far as independent living, which is kind of cool. But one thing we want to make mention too is that with our new format here at Primetime Seniors, again, we're talking about all the resources that are available. So if you all have questions, we invite you to email us.
Absolutely.
primetimeseniors@WHHI-TV.com. And if there's a topic you would like to have covered, a question that you may have, something just crazy that pops in your head that you would like to see covered on the show, or again, a question or an issue that you would like to see addressed, email us, because if we don't know the answer, we'll find it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people who have a lot of knowledge in the community that we'd love to bring on and have them answer questions.
Yeah, we really want this to be an interactive, as much as we can be interactive with the folks at home, but we want you to feel like you're a part of our Primetime Seniors family. And at any age, again, I was talking in our last episode about my parents, in-laws. I mean, we all are connected with the senior community, and whether we're getting up there in years and having to deal with those issues ourselves, or if we know of someone or are close to someone, a neighbor, a friend, a relative that's getting up in years, we want to be aware of what our options are and be educated. So we really want this to be a resource for the viewers, and you all are such a great resource in our community. Yes, big kudos to you all. That's cool stuff. Well, we have a lot coming up. Let's take a quick break because we've got a full show here on Primetime Seniors. We'll be right back. Lots more coming up. Welcome back to Primetime Seniors. Susan Kelsey joins us now. She is a geriatric care manager and owner of Assistance Plus. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
We have been talking about independence, and when we were thinking about different guests for the show, Susan was an obvious guest to have because so many of the residents of this area don't have family living here. And you need somebody to help you walk through the path of making decisions sometimes in your life. And we were talking earlier that you've recently helped one of your clients make a decision about moving into independent living, into an independent living facility like Riverside at Belfair. How do you do that? What's the process? I mean, are there criteria you're looking for? How do you really make that decision and help them make that decision?
Well, typically what we do is we will do an initial assessment where we look at all different aspects of the person's life. How can they handle their own, what we call activities of daily living, their dressing, their bathing, their eating, their walking. We will look at other activities that they do, such as laundry. Can they prepare meals? Can they handle money? Can they use the telephone in an emergency? We look at the safety of the home. We look at their nutrition, and also one of the key pieces is medication management. Right. Can they handle their own medications? Right. At first, we may be able to put some support in the home, but for some people, especially if they have a dementia as the disease progresses, then they can't manage without more support. And that's when we start looking at some other options for them.
With Assistance Plus, then, does your charge come from the family members who are out of town, or does the actual individual give you a call and say, hey, I need your services to give me a hand in making some of these decisions and finding what's best for them?
Typically, the older adult is not the one that's contacting us. Probably about 80% of the time we're getting a call from concerned out-of-town relatives. We do sometimes have spouses where one spouse will call when they are overwhelmed with the care of the other spouse.
Right.
And we also have occasionally local families who have their parents here, and they are worried that perhaps their parent no longer is able to stay.
And it really is for them a second opinion, because they may not be even confident that they're making the right assessment. So you can come in and do a professional assessment of that. Yeah, I was thinking about that when we were talking about independence, and in the recent past at Home Helpers, we had a client who really decided to go into an independent living facility because maintaining her home was just becoming overwhelming to her. She had lost her spouse. She was now having to manage yard, maintenance, the finances, all the things that they used to share. And she opted to move out of her home and go into an independent living facility because it simplified her life. It really made life much easier for her to do that.
And that's what they're there for. So that's what independent facilities are there for, is to make it easier and take away that, that peace. And not only that, but if a lot of times if the husband is no longer, there, he could have been the one to take care of people like the yard maintenance and the air conditioning man to come in the house. She may not feel comfortable doing that.
Who wants to deal with that? I don't want to deal with that now.
Never mind when you hadn't done it yet.
Forget it.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things, we will take over that piece a lot of times. We will get referrals, and it's primarily older women, but it can be older men as well, who are overwhelmed, and we can provide that support when they call and say there's a leak. What do? We can call a plumber and get the plumber to come in because they just don't know who to call. They feel uncomfortable.
Right.
But sometimes it becomes more expensive to have all those services coming into the home. And when finances become a little bit tight, then sometimes moving to another level of care, an independent living facility, may be more economical for them too.
And a lot of times it does, whenever you're looking at having caregivers, for 8, 12 hours, it's something they have to stand back and they have to look at. What is the most cost-effective choice?
I mean, what's the process in making that decision in your life, as far as sitting down and saying, life throws us so many curveballs. So how do you plan how do you make those decisions, and how do you do it in a timely manner where you are still involved in the process? And when do you do? I guess when do you do it, or is that really kind of there's no real answer to that?
But it's been what we've been talking about all this month, which is you make these decisions when you have the full capacity to make them. You make them as well informed as you can, and you start today looking for resources like Susan's services and other services we've discussed, because you don't know what you're going to need, and our community is full of wonderful resources.
So I guess the answer is there's no specific age where you hit and you say, okay, now I got to
today.
Yeah. But I guess it has to be top of mind as you're.
Well,
you're
Susan,
going
don't you find that there's usually some kind of event that precipitates it? I mean, Laura and I laugh that it's when the children have come for a holiday visit and they're expressing concerns, and the family says, fine, get off my back, I'll do something. That seems to be a lot of it.
That's part of it. Or what we don't like to see is being crisis managers.
Absolutely.
When we get the call in the crisis that mom has fallen, she has broken her hip, and she was taking care of dad. What do we do now?
And unfortunately, we all see those as well.
It is ideal if people start planning and looking at their finances, seeing what they want to be doing with their life, and here is what we have as far as our resources go, our monthly income, our assets, and we will sometimes sit down with them and do various budgets. This is what it will cost you to stay at home with the level of care that you need, the number of hours of caregivers. This is a comparison with what it will cost if you go to independent living. This might be what it would cost if you went to assisted living. And so people are prepared then.
Right.
And I think that's very
Making
important.
informed decisions.
Yes.
And I think the more proactive that you are, the less stress you end up. It's not something always hanging over you. It's okay. You've already made those decisions together. You've gone through the process as a family, and all you can do is, make it more quality of life.
Yeah. I like what I hear you saying, Susan, in that it's you're linking people to other resources as well. So when they're trying to make these decisions, you may be sending them to a financial planner or a financial advisor, or you may be talking with their families or their doctor about health care and management of that. So you really are very holistic. You look at the whole situation.
We do.
And look at options going forward from that point.
And we do, as I said, the cornerstone of the practice of a geriatric care manager is to do an initial assessment, provide recommendations, give people alternatives, and then the families can either go ahead on their own, follow through with some of these recommendations. They can use us again. We can monitor their family, report back to them. One of the nice things we do is we can email 3 out-of-town adult children at one time, so everybody stays informed.
That's great, keeping everybody on the same page with it all.
It's very important.
That's great. Susan, thank you so much for joining us, Assistance Plus. We'll be right back here on Primetime Seniors. Don't go away. Welcome back to Primetime Seniors. Bart Brophy joins us now. He's a local resident who's an advocate for independent living. Bart, it's great to have you here. Before we get started, a big round of applause and big thank you to you he's the gentleman that was responsible for the beach mats that help us move from the parking lot to the sandy shores of Hilton Head Island. And you help us lug our stuff and bikes and strollers and all of that over those beach mats. It makes it so much easier for us all. So how cool is that?
Very cool.
A famous celebrity on our show. It's fabulous.
Yeah, well, Laura's already so impressed with you because she Googled you.
Very impressive.
You are impressive. Let's talk about what you've done in addition to the beach mats.
Yeah.
Well, I've been a disability advocate since I became disabled, I guess, back in 1980. So it goes back a long way before some of the laws even were in place at that time, because the Americans with Disabilities Act doesn't get signed until 1990. So independent living was kind of a way for me to accept my disability and be able to do something about, being able to live independently as possible. And it gave me a cause, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you do it very well, and one of the reasons I was so excited that Bart was going to be joining us is because Bart and I have been emailing, well, we've known each other for a long time, and we've been emailing recently about this issue of independence and how people are able to stay independent, and Bart has utilized technology. Mm-hmm. It's a topic we haven't talked about much this month, but technology has been probably one of the best gifts for you because it has enhanced your physical capability so much.
Yes.
So from everything from a gripper to an iBot.
Yeah, I was telling the cameraman that I have an iBot, which is a wheelchair that can climb stairs. It can go up on 2 wheels and balance and does some phenomenal things.
Are they still making the iBots?
The iBot was discontinued because insurance wouldn't cover the iBot, and there's been a battle in the courts. One judge ruled that insurance companies needed to pay for the iBot if the person needed it. Veterans that have wanted it and haven't been able to get it. Fortunately, there are some charitable organizations that are getting iBots for veterans. But basically, it was discontinued, which is a real shame. Yeah. You can see how the inventor might not want to go and try doing something like that again because he got shut down. It was expensive, but it wasn't overly expensive. Yeah.
For anyone who has access to the internet, you can go onto YouTube, and they have several videos there showing what an individual sitting in an iBot is able to do compared to a regular wheelchair. It's an amazing progression of technology. It really is. What other technology do you use?
In my house I have a lift on the ceiling that can pick me up out of the bed and drop me in the whirlpool, so I do a whirlpool every morning. It has a remote control. I can do it myself, technically, but somebody needs to assist me. So I have home care from Home Helpers.
Ta-da! No personal plugs here, truly not. But you do. You have an aide that helps you every day.
So let me say thank you to all the aides I've had over the years.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Rose right now. I got to mention Rose.
Yeah, she'll be happy to hear you say that. But I think it's good,
Deborah.
It is a plug for home care, but in other ways, it's a plug for exactly where we've been talking. Independence does not mean on your own. Right. Independence means smart use of any resource that's available to you. Yeah. Technology, helping hands, whatever it is.
And being active in those decisions.
And making those decisions.
Being at the helm, if you will. Yeah. I need this, I'm going to do this. I need this, I'm going to do this. And making those calls and making it happen for yourself.
I had to laugh when you first came on because before we went on camera, you were saying that there was a time that you would never have wanted to be in a facility like Riverside Belfair, but now you're rethinking that.
Yeah, right. The cookies over there.
Yeah. They're getting good care here.
Yeah, I don't know.
And one of those reasons, like we were saying, is because now it's a choice the person makes who wants to live here. And so it's independent living, assisted living, they have come so far in the last 15 years. Yeah. So it's night and day.
Yeah. It's still a battle for me to live on my own at home, just financially, physically, the whole bit. But that's the challenge. I kind of like the challenge of that. Come here, it might be a little too easy for me. I'd be eating more cookies.
But you have one advantage that a lot of disabled and elderly don't have at some point in their lives, and that you still drive.
Right.
And so for folks that don't drive, and they are more prone to being socially isolated, a congregate living situation can be a great advantage.
Yeah.
Because you still need that social interaction.
You definitely need to know you're part of something bigger.
Yeah, well, you know, the fact that I was 20 when I got hurt, I became disabled young. You know, going into a nursing home wasn't really an option, even though people were saying to my mother, you know, put him in a nursing home because he's not going to be able to take care of himself. And so at the very beginning, we were battling with that issue. And my family was able to find a house that was, you know, totally accessible, that we bought from a guy, a double amputee, happened to be a real estate guy in the Hamptons of New York, and I was able to live there with my brothers, you know, to get started, and I had home nursing care, but that was the beginning of it, you know, to just kind of get into the battle of make it interesting, trying to figure out how to do this.
The disability movement has really opened up a lot of doors, even for the non-disabled. You were saying that earlier, too.
Absolutely. You know, I think that anybody can benefit from the American with Disabilities Act. I think that it's been just a huge change for people who have, you know, physical limitations, mental limitations, any type.
Yeah, elderly people, you know, they're not familiar with being disabled. I'm familiar with it. I've done it for 30 years, believe it or not. So they can learn from what I'm using. A gentleman saw me at the post office one day, and he went out and bought a van with a lift. He bought the ceiling lifts that I have in my room. He changed his bathroom around, and he started going on vacations, you know, where as he was told, you know, just stay in your bedroom and, you know, we'll bring you your meals and you'll be okay. You know, you still want to have a life.
Absolutely.
And he had the money, the resources, especially if you have the money and the resources to buy this stuff. There's no need not to have it. There's people living in houses in wheelchairs that don't have a ramp on the house. They can't leave the house. Yeah, they're sort of living, but it's not real. They have to be dependent on somebody just to get out of the house. It's kind of ridiculous. Right. So you have to start with some of the basic stuff. A van is kind of extreme also. For me to be able to drive, it involves an expensive van. Not everybody can afford the van. There are programs and stuff, but it doesn't pay for the whole thing. And so for me, I've always had a van, because that was one of my motivations from the hospital. When they said, well, you still might be able to drive, I was like, oh, really? Okay, that sounds good.
All you need is just a little bit of hope and, you know, just to
and
know
determination.
that there's some, right.
Well,
just to know that, that there's
Yeah.
something out there. When people shut the door on you, you know, but if they say, well, there is something out there. You can do this.
There is a National Rights Center for Independent Living that folks can go on the internet and look into. Maybe we could post some of those various email addresses on our website. So
as people start to realize some of the rules aren't in place for us,
and I know
they still need to be changed.
We only have like 30 seconds or so, but what are some of the organizations that you're actively working with now?
Well, ADAPT is like the more radical group that goes to Washington and, you know, sits in on senators' offices that aren't speaking to the issues that we want faced.
Sit-ins. A vote to my youth. Okay.
Yeah. There was a famous sit-in in California in the 70s that changed. People with disabilities weren't entitled to education in the United States until 1973. They could be told that because you're in a wheelchair, you're in an iron lung, you know, the college is not suitable for you, so you can't go to college. That seems kind of ridiculous. And 73 doesn't seem that long ago to me.
It's not that long ago.
No, not
it's
at all.
really not.
You know, all the accessibility laws that were signed in 1990 doesn't seem like a long time ago to me either. Yeah. And I wish more things have changed, but they're slowly changing.
Well, you're doing great work, Bart.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Bart.
For giving us that perspective on independent living. We really appreciate it. And again, thank you for those beach mats.
All right.
This is the man to thank. Thank you for joining us in this episode of Primetime Seniors. We will see you next month with more great things here. And again, coming from Riverside at Belfair, I'm Debbie Court, along with Debbie Morris and Laura Williams. Thank you again for watching Primetime Seniors.